The quantum analysis lab hummed with an almost imperceptible vibration, a stark contrast to the frantic thoughts racing through Dr. Elena Rodriguez's mind. Her fingers danced across holographic displays, tracing impossible patterns in the cosmic background radiation that most of her colleagues would dismiss as meaningless noise. Outside the reinforced windows of the Atacama Large Interferometer, the Chilean desert stretched endlessly, a landscape of stark beauty that matched the clinical precision of her work. Elena had always been different. Where others saw random data, she saw symphonies of information waiting to be decoded. The first anomaly appeared 3 months ago, a microscopic deviation in long-range electromagnetic patterns that would have escaped any less obsessive researcher. Most would have filed it away, forgotten it, but Elena Rodriguez was not most researchers. She zoomed in, her augmented reality interface peeling back layer after layer of data. The anomaly wasn't random. It was deliberate, structured, mathematically precise in a way that defied natural cosmic phenomena. "Come on," she muttered, pulling her dark hair back into a tight ponytail. The lab was empty. It was approaching midnight, but time meant nothing when a breakthrough was within reach. A notification pinged. Her AI research assistant, AI, spoke in a carefully modulated voice. "Dr. Rodriguez, the probability of this signal being artificial is 99.987%. Recommendation: immediate escalation to global scientific community." Elena knew the risks. Scientific careers were built on careful publications, peer-reviewed research, measured statements. Claiming an alien signal could be career suicide. But something in her gut, a feeling honed by years of pushing scientific boundaries, told her this was different. She began constructing her initial analysis, each line of code a deliberate weapon against scientific skepticism. The signal wasn't just artificial. It was a map, a meticulously constructed architectural blueprint of Earth's defensive capabilities, communication networks, and planetary infrastructure. Someone, or something, had been watching, studying, preparing. The cold realization crept up her spine. This wasn't just observation. This was preparation. Her personal comm device buzzed. Dr. Marcus Chen from the Beijing Astrophysics Institute, one of the few colleagues who took her seriously. "Elena, are you seeing what I'm seeing?" "You mean the fact that someone's been conducting a comprehensive reconnaissance of our entire planet." Her voice was calm, clinical. A pause. Then Chen's voice, tight with controlled tension. "It's not just reconnaissance. These are invasion preparation protocols. The mathematical precision. It's beyond anything in our current technological understanding." Elena's fingers flew across the holographic interface. Layer after layer of data revealed a terrifying picture. The signal wasn't from any known terrestrial or extraterrestrial source. It was alien, coldly, mathematically precise. A civilization so advanced that their preliminary invasion planning was indistinguishable from background cosmic radiation. "They're coming," she whispered. Aria's voice remained neutral. Estimated time of potential first contact: 73 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes. The quantum lab felt suddenly smaller. The endless Chilean desert outside seemed both impossibly vast and terrifyingly vulnerable. Humanity had no idea what was coming, no comprehension of the storm about to break over their unsuspecting civilization. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the precipice of the greatest discovery, and potentially the greatest threat, in human history. And she was the only one who knew. The first battle would be fought not with weapons, but with information, with understanding, with the human capacity to see patterns where others saw only chaos. And Elena Rodriguez was ready. Arjun Mehta's fingers flew across the keyboard, a symphony of code dancing beneath his touch. At 17, he was already a legend in the underground hacking community. But today, something felt different. The global network was alive with a strange electric tension. Moonbay's humid air pressed against the window of his small apartment, the cityscape a blur of neon and steel. His multiple monitors flickered with streams of data, warning signs buried in the background noise of the internet. That's when he saw it. A microsecond-long data burst, impossible to catch without the custom-built quantum detection algorithms he'd been developing for months. Most would have missed it entirely. But Arjun didn't miss anything. "What the hell?" he muttered. Across the world, in a small farmhouse in rural Kansas, Jack Harper cleaned his collection of modified hunting rifles. Retired Special Forces, he'd spent years preparing for something. He never knew exactly what. His military-grade communications array picked up the first hints of the incoming threat seconds before the official channels. The sky changed. Not gradually, not with warning. In an instant. Massive objects, each the size of small cities, breached the atmospheric barrier. They weren't ships in any traditional sense. They were living machines, computational entities that moved with a precision that defied physics. In Mumbai, Arjun watched in horror as the first energy pulses began to carve through the city's infrastructure. His fingers were already moving, launching counter-protocols he'd developed as a thought experiment, never believing he'd actually use them. Jack Harper's comm system erupted with emergency broadcasts. Military channels, civilian networks, satellite communications, all dissolving into chaos. The Solarian first strike was not about destruction. It was about total system collapse. Energy weapons that could dissolve entire city blocks materialized from nowhere. Computational warfare that targeted every single electronic system simultaneously. It was a surgical strike designed to remove humanity's ability to communicate, coordinate, or resist. But they didn't understand humans. In the first 12 minutes of the invasion, something remarkable happened. Where conventional military forces would have collapsed, human beings began to adapt. Arjun's custom algorithms started hijacking alien communication frequencies. What began as a teenage hacker's desperate attempt to understand the attack quickly became a global resistance network. His code spread like a virus, turning the invaders' own communication systems against them. Jack Harper gathered the local community. Veterans, farmers, hunters, people who had always lived at the edge of society. People who understood survival wasn't about technology, but about adaptability. "They want us scared," Jack's voice crackled over improvised radio networks. "We're going to give them something else." The alien computational systems, designed to predict and neutralize resistance, began to falter. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't its technology, it was its unpredictability. In orbital tracking stations, Solarian command units registered something impossible. Human resistance was not just continuing, it was *accelerating*. Genetic sample collectors, sent to methodically harvest human biological material, found themselves trapped in local resistance networks. Farmers repurposed agricultural drones. Teenagers turned social media platforms into combat information systems. The invasion wasn't going according to plan, and it was just getting started. Arjun looked out over the partially destroyed Mumbai skyline. Smoke, yes. Destruction, certainly. But something else burned brighter. Hope, defiance, the unbreakable human spirit. The Solarians had made a critical mistake. They thought they were hunting a species. They were about to learn they had started a war. The Global Science Collaborative emerged from chaos like a phoenix rising from the ashes of conventional research. What had once been competing institutions were now a unified front, their resources pooled, their singular goal: survival. Dr. Kwame Osei stood before a holographic display that wrapped around the circular research chamber. Once the pride of the African Institute of Advanced Technologies, the facility now hummed with an energy that defied its previous academic restraint. Burn marks scored the walls, testament to failed experiments. But each failure brought them closer. "We're not just developing technology," Kwame muttered to his team. "We're rewriting the fundamental understanding of human potential." The neural link prototype lay before them, a delicate mesh of quantum computing, biological interface, and something entirely new. Most scientific advancements took decades. They were working in hours. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a neurological engineer from Tokyo, adjusted the quantum processor. Her hands moved with a precision born of desperation and genius. The alien systems operate on a computational logic we've never seen. We can't fight them with traditional technology. Their team was a mosaic of humanity's best: a quantum physicist from Senegal, a neurological engineer from Japan, a systems analyst from Brazil, a computational linguist from India. Each brought something unique, something the Solarians could never predict. The first successful neural link test happened by accident. Quaim had been running diagnostic protocols when the system suddenly came alive. Not just activated. Awakened *. The quantum processor began to learn, to adapt, to understand at a rate that defied every known computational model. My God, Yuki whispered, it's not just processing. It's thinking *. The neural link wasn't just a piece of technology. It was a living system that could learn, adapt, and evolve faster than any computational entity the Solarians had encountered. It drew not just from programmed algorithms, but from the collective human experience: creativity, emotion, unpredictability. A warning klaxon erupted. Solarian tracking systems had located their research facility. They had minutes, perhaps less, before the first strike. Transfer complete, Quaim called out. The neural link wasn't just a system. It was now a living extension of human potential. The first drone strike hit exactly where their facility had been moments before. But they were already gone. The neural link prototype secured. Their consciousness spread across a network that the aliens couldn't comprehend. In that moment, humanity transformed from a species being hunted to a weapon beyond calculation. The neural link was more than technology. It was proof the human potential wasn't just about individual brilliance, but about collective innovation. Each team member's experience, fear, hope, and determination became part of the system's core programming. Quaim watched as the prototype began to map potential invasion strategies in real time. But it wasn't just mapping, it was predicting learning, evolving. The Solarians had chosen the wrong species to underestimate. We're ready, Quaim said, his voice calm against the backdrop of destruction. The neural link pulsed, not with the cold precision of alien computation, but with something far more dangerous: human spirit. Dr. Amarakari stood at the intersection of psychology, linguistics, and warfare, a battlefield more complex than any physical combat zone. The Psychological Warfare Research Center had been cobbled together from the remnants of global intelligence agencies, academic institutions, and something entirely new. Language isn't just communication, she explained to the assembled team of linguists, psychologists, artists, and quantum information specialists. It's a weapon, an ecosystem of thought. The Solarian collective had a critical vulnerability. Their hive-mind consciousness operated on pure computational logic, a system so rigidly structured that it couldn't comprehend the chaotic beauty of individual human creativity. On the main display, alien communication patterns danced. Mathematical, precise, utterly predictable. We're going to break that, Amara said. The first mimetic weapon wasn't a traditional weapon at all. It was a piece of music. Not just any music, a composition that encoded complex emotional and cognitive patterns impossible for the alien computational systems to predict. Dr. Marcus Chen, a quantum linguist, had spent weeks developing an algorithm that could translate human emotional complexity into a form of informational warfare. The piece combined elements of classical music, mathematical fractals, and something entirely new: a linguistic representation of human hope, defiance, and unpredictability. When they first deployed the musical algorithm, nothing happened immediately. Then the alien communication networks began to destabilize. It wasn't destruction. It was confusion. The Solarian systems encountered something they had no protocol to process: pure, unquantifiable human emotion, translated into a form of informational warfare. A young artist named Elena Rodriguez, no relation to the quantum physicist from earlier, had been instrumental in the project. Her background in abstract digital art provided the critical breakthrough. She could visualize emotional states in ways that defied traditional computational models. They think in straight lines, Alina explained, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface. We think in spirals, in fractals, in impossible geometries. The mimetic weapons became more complex, a poem that could simultaneously exist in multiple interpretative states, a visual artwork that changed based on the emotional state of the viewer, mathematical constructs that were simultaneously true and false. In the orbital command centers of the Solarian Collective, something unprecedented happened. Their computational systems began to hesitate. Hesitation. For a species that had never known uncertainty, it was more destructive than any physical weapon. Amara watched the data streams, a slight smile crossing her lips. They weren't just fighting. They were teaching the aliens what it meant to be truly alive. The breakthrough came during a seemingly impossible moment. A group of children, refugees from the initial invasion, created a game. A simple thing, born of trauma and hope. When the game's underlying logic was analyzed, it revealed a computational approach so fundamentally alien to the Solarian systems that it caused massive information cascade failures. We're not just resisting, Amara told her team. We're showing them what it means to be human. The weapons of thought were more than just a strategy. They were a declaration. Humanity would not be conquered. Not by force. Not by computation. Not by anything. In the vast computational networks of the Solarian Collective, something impossible began to spread. Doubt. Captain Maria Chen stood at the edge of impossible. The stealth craft, a hybrid of experimental human technology and hijacked alien systems, hummed with a barely contained energy. Her team was anything but conventional. 4 individuals who represented humanity's most adaptive, most dangerous potential. To her left, Dr. Alejandro Reyes adjusted his neural link interface. A computational genius who looked more like a street artist than a scientist. His fingers moved in complex patterns that seemed to blur the line between coding and magic. Beside him, HFY, an AI combat system that had developed something disturbingly close to personality, ran final system checks. The third team member was Zora Okoro, a former Special Forces operative whose body had been augmented with experimental biotechnology. Her modified nervous system could process information faster than most supercomputers, her reflexes existing in a space between human capability and something entirely new. And then there was the wild card. Kim Ji-soo, a quantum linguist whose understanding of communication went far beyond traditional language. Her ability to read and manipulate information patterns made her more weapon than human. Their target, the primary Solarian command ship, a computational entity larger than most terrestrial cities, existing in a state between machine and living organism. Approach vector confirmed. HFY-7's voice cut through the tension. Not quite human, not quite machine. Something in between. Maria Chen knew the stakes. This wasn't just a mission. It was humanity's first true offensive strike against an enemy that had been studying them for decades. The stealth craft moved like a ghost, exploiting the microscopic vulnerabilities in the Solarian detection systems. Vulnerabilities that had been meticulously mapped by weeks of psychological warfare and computational analysis. We're not just infiltrating, Maria had told her team during the final briefing. We're going to reprogram the very concept of invasion. The ship's outer membrane was unlike anything in human technological understanding. Not a physical barrier, but a living computational field that adapted in real time. Most invasion strategies would have failed instantly. But this team was different. Zara's modified nervous system began to interface directly with the ship's outer computational layer. Not breaking through, communicating *. Using the psychological warfare techniques developed by Dr. Kauri's team, she introduced complex emotional and linguistic patterns that confused the ship's defensive systems. Alejandro's fingers danced across multiple holographic interfaces. He wasn't just hacking. He was rewriting the fundamental communication protocols of an entire alien computational entity. Kim began to sing, not with her voice, but with a complex quantum linguistic algorithm that existed simultaneously as sound, mathematical pattern, and pure information. The ship's systems began to hesitate. RIS-7 calculated probabilities faster than any biological system could comprehend. Millions of potential invasion scenarios collapsed into a single, impossible pathway. They were inside. The Xalarian command ship was a living nightmare of computational complexity. Corridors that shifted based on computational requirements. Defensive systems that anticipated threats before they could manifest. But they had something that Xalarians could never understand: human unpredictability. "Now," Maria Chen said simply. And the infiltration began. The world had transformed. Every street, every school, every factory was now a front in humanity's war of survival. The global mobilization protocol wasn't just a military strategy. It was a complete reimagining of human civilization. In Detroit, auto manufacturing plants that once produced cars now churned out modular combat systems. Algorithms designed for supply chain optimization were repurposed to coordinate global resistance networks. Teenagers learned battlefield tactics alongside their mathematics classes. Retirement communities became communication hubs and tactical planning centers. Dr. Fatima Al-Rashid watched from the Central Coordination Hub in Nairobi. Once a professor of systems engineering, she was now the primary architect of humanity's adaptive warfare strategy. Her team was a global network that operated beyond traditional military hierarchies, a living, breathing computational organism that could respond faster than any single command structure. "We're not just fighting," she told a group of young strategists. "We're evolving." The Xalarian invasion had inadvertently done something remarkable. It had unified humanity in a way no previous conflict ever could. National borders dissolved. Cultural differences became strengths. Every human became a potential warrior, every mind a weapon. Schools developed crash courses in quantum computing, psychological warfare, and adaptive technology. Children who once played video games now designed combat algorithms. Artists created mimetic weapons that could destabilize alien communication networks. Musicians composed frequencies that could confuse alien computational systems. Jack Harper, the retired Special Forces operator from Kansas, now led a global training network. His desert compound had become a crucible of human adaptation. Farmers learned drone warfare. Programmers studied guerrilla tactics. Every skill, every piece of knowledge became a potential weapon. In the orbital research stations, the neural link technology developed by Dr. Kwame Osei's team reached new heights of capability. It wasn't just a communication tool anymore. It was a living network that could coordinate human resistance on a global scale, adapting faster than any computational system could predict. Arjun Mehta, the teenage hacker from Mumbai, now led a global network of digital resistance fighters. His team could infiltrate, disrupt, and redirect alien computational systems faster than the Xalarians could respond. What had begun as underground hacking had become humanity's primary defensive strategy. The transformation was total. Agricultural systems were modified to produce combat-ready nutrients. Entertainment industries developed psychological training programs. Every aspect of human society was now a weapon, a shield, a method of resistance. Diversity is our ultimate weapon, Fatima would tell their teams. The Xalarians understand uniformity. We thrive on difference, and they were proving it. Each failed alien attack made humanity stronger. Each computational system they encountered was quickly analyzed, understood, and turned against them. The Xalarians had chosen to hunt a species that learned faster than any in galactic history. In refugee camps, in underground shelters, in orbital stations, in desert compounds, humanity was rewriting the very concept of warfare. They weren't just surviving. They were becoming something new. In the depths of the Solarian Collective's primary computational core, something impossible was happening. Doubt. The concept was foreign, incomprehensible. For millions of years, the collective had operated with absolute certainty. Precision. Calculation. Every decision was the result of perfect computational logic. They had conquered countless civilizations, eliminated entire species with surgical efficiency. But humans were different. Supreme Computational Arbiter X9, the highest-ranking entity in the Solarian leadership, analyzed the data streams. Trillions of computational cycles dedicated to understanding a species that defied every known galactic model of intelligent life. Humans did not think in lines. They thought in spirals, in fractals, in impossible geometries that shattered every predictive algorithm. The infiltration of their primary command ship was just the beginning. Each human interaction introduced variables that the collective systems could not process: emotional complexity, individual creativity, the ability to find solution paths that existed outside of computational probability. Their neural networks began to experience something terrifyingly close to fear. On Earth, Dr. Amarakari watched the data streams with a look of clinical fascination. The psychological warfare team had done more than just attack the Solarian systems. They had introduced a virus far more dangerous than any technological weapon. Uncertainty. The mimetic weapons developed by her team weren't just information constructs. They were philosophical attacks that challenged the very foundation of the Solarian understanding of existence. Each algorithmic pattern carried undertones of human emotional complexity: hope, defiance, love, rage, concepts that had no equivalent in the alien computational language. In the orbital combat zones, human resistance had become something beyond traditional warfare. Swarm tactics that changed faster than any predictive model could track. Communication networks that existed in a state of constant, beautiful chaos. X9's computational core began to experience microfractures, not physical, but informational. Each human interaction introduced paradoxes that its systems could not resolve. A child's drawing intercepted from a refugee communication network carried mathematical complexity that took the collective's top analysts centuries to partially decode. A piece of music developed by a group of survivors contained informational patterns that destabilized entire communication sectors. The Solarians had never encountered a species that could weaponize **Hope**. They're breaking, Maria Chen reported to the Global Coordination Hub. Not just their systems, their entire conceptual understanding of warfare. The infiltration team's true weapon wasn't technology. It was the introduction of *possibility*, the radical notion that computational perfection was not the highest form of intelligence. Supreme Computational Arbiter X9 experienced its first genuine emotional response. Not fear, not anger. Something far more dangerous. Curiosity. The Solarian Collective had studied humanity for decades, mapped every potential invasion scenario, calculated every possible resistance strategy. They had never considered the possibility that humanity might fundamentally change the very concept of conflict. In that moment of hesitation, of pure uncertainty, the balance shifted. The hunters became the hunted. The final battle wasn't a moment of destruction. It was an act of profound understanding. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the reclaimed Solarian command ship, watching the last remnants of the invasion fleet drift into entropy. Around her, the most extraordinary team in human history worked to understand rather than annihilate. Captain Maria Chen approached, her augmented body still humming with the neural link technology that had been their salvation. "We could destroy them completely," she said, her voice a mixture of exhaustion and contemplation. Belina shook her head. "That's not who we are." The Global Reconciliation Council had made a decision that would reshape galactic history. Humanity would not seek revenge. They would seek understanding. The Solarian Collective had been reduced to a fraction of its former computational power. Their hive mind, once an unbreakable system of perfect logic, now existed in a state of fundamental transformation. The human psychological and technological warfare had done more than defeat an enemy. It had introduced them to the concept of individual consciousness. Dr. Kwame Osei's neural link technology became the bridge, not a weapon of conquest, but a tool of communication. They would help the Solarians understand what they had never comprehended: the power of individual experience, of emotional complexity, of choice. Arjun Mehta, now leading the Interspecies Communication Research Division, worked tirelessly to create a new form of linguistic interface. "We're not just translating language," he explained to the council. "We're teaching them how to think differently." The refugee camps that had once been centers of desperate survival now became something else. Learning centers, places of cultural exchange. The children who had survived the invasion were now the first generation of truly galactic humans, their experience spanning both survival and reconciliation. Jack Harper, the veteran who had once prepared for war, now led programs teaching the Solarian remnants about human resilience, not through military training, but through stories of survival, of hope, of community. The Solarians began to change. Their computational systems, once purely logical, started to develop something approximating empathy. They learned about individual choice, about the strength that comes from diversity rather than uniformity. "We're not just saving ourselves," Alina told the council. "We're saving them from themselves." The final act of the war was not a battle. It was an invitation to understand, an invitation to grow. The reclaimed Solarian ships, now integrated with human technology, became research vessels. Exploration became their new purpose. The computational might that had once been used for conquest now turned toward discovery. Dr. Amara Kauri's psychological warfare team transformed into cultural exchange specialists. They developed communication protocols that went beyond language, teaching the Solarians about emotion, about individual experience, about the beauty of unpredictability. Zara Okoro, with her modified biotechnology, became a living bridge between human and Solarian understanding. Her augmented body, once a weapon, now a symbol of adaptation and potential. In the orbital research stations, in the refugee camps, in the reclaimed alien vessels, humanity had done something unprecedented. They had not just survived. They had transformed an act of potential extinction into an opportunity for galactic understanding. The universe watched and learned.